Hello, Tech Pros, episode 240.
Take action. I've worked with so many people that they've had a great idea. We've started putting a plan together, but at the end of the day, take action. If there's an opportunity, take action on it.
Welcome to the podcast where we explore the opportunities, challenges, and anxieties that technical professionals and techpreneurs face when building their career, building their products, and building their business. This show is about the people behind technology and the mindsets and skill sets they developed that led to their success. You can learn more about this podcast and our guests at hellotechpros.com and about overcoming social anxiety at anxietynerd.com. All right, let's get started. Hello, Tech Pros. This is Chad Bostic, and I'm excited to introduce our featured guest today, Joshua Futrell. Happy Saturday, Joshua.
How you doing?
I'm doing great, man. Are you ready to hustle?
Yes, sir. Always.
Awesome. Joshua Futrell is the CEO and founder of COMHOME Technology Solutions. He is an entrepreneur and network infrastructure engineer with more than 15 years of experience in technical leadership, computer networking technology, and business critical management. He is a member of the Frisco Chamber of Commerce and a member of their elite Leadership Frisco team. He is also a decorated Air Force veteran. Joshua, first of all, thank you so much for your service to our armed forces, man. I really, really appreciate the sacrifice that you've made for us.
Thank you.
You bet. Second of all, congratulations on being a network infrastructure person who has opted in to come on the show, because we don't get enough of these guys and gals. I have actually been called out by one of my, one of my network admin friends who said, Chad, you got all these software developers on the show. We need more infrastructure folks. I'm like, great, dude. Like, come on the show and join me. He's like, I'm busy.
Yeah, I think that's the case with most of them. They all seem busy, and they're even hard to find sometimes.
That's very, very true, man. The unsung heroes of everything that goes on in the interwebs that keeps all of our cat videos running all day and all night are the unsung heroes that keep everything plugged together and all the lights on, man. So,
and with this day and age, everything's coming over to our world. It's all going IP based, and it seems more and more we've got new platforms and new opportunities, and if you build the highways, they'll keep you busy.
Yeah, that is absolutely the truth, man. There's so much data going through these pipes these days, and everything it's just over my career. And I'm not a network guy. I'm not an infrastructure guy, right? I'm more on the code side, more of just like build it and piss off the network guys by wanting to install crazy things that may or may not have had the best security practices and so forth as I learned throughout my career. But put that stuff on there and just make it happen. And man, it's just the little bit of back-end knowledge that I know, it has changed so radically, not just once or twice, but like every 6 months, it seems like there's some new major change that's coming down the pipe and making us kind of reevaluate how we're deploying our applications, how we're running our data centers, whether or not we have a data center. Just, it's complete chaos.
Yep. Yeah, I agree. And then, with the advancements in wireless technology and all that, more people are getting off the wire. I mean, we're becoming more of a wireless world. So it's a whole new type of infrastructure that we're working with. And really nowadays, it's, the highways are built and can run the traffic. Now it's all about how do we secure this data? How do we deliver and secure it? And that way we can mitigate against, the cyber threats that are out there that we all face today.
Yeah, no kidding. I was asked one time a couple of years ago, why weren't we thinking about security from the very beginning? Like, why do we have to think about security now? From my personal perspective, again, because when I was growing up, I was a newbie and I knew no better. I was just trying to get the dadgum thing to work, man. I was just like, can this invention work or not? If I can get access to one person and have them get access to the application and the data that I want them to get, man, that is a huge success, because right now 0 people can get access to this. And so can I open it up enough so that somebody can get access to it? And once we do, it's like, whew, oh man, I am done with this. I never want to look at this again. But what we didn't realize is that we left ourselves open to vulnerabilities and to, bad folks to get in, and not the right people always to get into the stuff. So it's definitely a situation where security is at the utmost importance these days.
And that's a constant battle in our world is providing convenience and security, and in trying to make those products mesh well together. Because with convenience, you tend to open it up and make it a lot more easier to access and user friendly. But with that, there's always the potential for the security risks, and anybody in the cybersecurity world will want to lock everything down and give you minimal access. While from the convenience standpoint, that doesn't really help.
Yep, you gotta. That's a very, very thin line that you gotta walk, man, to make both parties happy and both parties get what they need. So speaking of get what they need, man, what is COMHOME Technology Solutions, and what solutions are you guys providing to what kind of customers?
So basically, COMHOME Technology Solutions, we're a technology solutions provider, IT support services. We do a lot of managed services for small, mid-sized, and enterprise level companies. But what we really tend to do is focus on these companies and what they're doing, and try to introduce technology into their environments that make sense, and then also makes them more efficient, and hopefully at the end of the day help streamline some process and make them more money.
Cool, man. So let's talk about your history in this field, right? So did you start off like right out of school, like, hey, I'm going to start my own business? Or did you go through like the 9-to-5 day job stuff before you decided to become an entrepreneur?
Yeah, from the time I got out of high school, I actually joined the military. I went into the Air Force, and for the first 5 years of my Air Force career, I was turning wrenches on airplanes. I was on a C-17 cargo jet.
Big boy.
Yes, sir. And through that, basically, we went through September 11th happened, and got a lot of got to mobilize, got to go see. That was my chance to actually fly around and see the world. It took a flying crew chief opportunity, and for the next 2 years, just flew around to all different theaters and all over the world. But after the flying stint, I actually got a chance to cross-train over to communications, and that's where I learned my network engineering skills. And from there, I just built on that. Got out of the Air Force around 9 years and enrolled directly into Cisco Microsoft type consulting companies doing high-level projects, and which eventually kind of springboarded me to deciding to start my own company here in Frisco, Texas.
Awesome. Cool, man. It's such an interesting journey. I love hearing people's journeys about where they started to where they got to today. And I've heard very few stories of just like, man, I was born to do this. I started to do this, and I rocked it out when I was 16, and I've been doing the exact same thing ever since. Everybody's kind of got these winding paths that they take, right? And it's very interesting to see how you go from something completely different to something where you are today, and all the steps in between. So that's really cool. So what kind of made that decision? Like, I'm a consultant, I'm doing very well, I'm working for these big companies, I'm learning lots of stuff, but then to say, you know what, I want to start my own company, and I want to launch the COMHOME brand.
I think deep down inside, I always wanted to run and manage something myself. So, in the back of my head, I always had it in my mind that, hey, I'm gonna start a company one day. I'm gonna be doing what I love. But beyond that, yes, I was working for these consulting companies. I was making really good money. Nowadays engineers are hard to find, so they pay engineers well. But with that, you are an employee, and you're kind of, you're followed into a lot of that corporate ladder type scenario, and there's like regulated growth. You can only grow so fast in a company like that. And I aspired to be more. So, I put my head down, I learned what I could learn, and tried to become the best at what I could do. And, when I realized I hit the ceiling within the corporation, that's when I decided, hey, it's time to go try something new. Because I wasn't worried about my skill or being able to go find a job. I basically set myself up to where I could go out and chase the dream of being an entrepreneur.
Man, that's such an interesting phrase. I haven't heard that before, regulated growth, but it's absolutely so true. Both way back in the day when I was an engineer, and we were doing amazing things in our startup, and our startup was growing from, 6, 7 people when I first started to hundreds of people, and then getting the IPO and going public and stuff like that. Still, throughout that whole process, in my company, in my situation, we were getting, 3% raises, 5% raises, and small bonuses and stuff like that. And it just felt like all the new people coming in were coming into a new environment where they were getting the rewards of all of the, all the raises and bonuses and sign-on bonuses and everything else that we had built over the last 4 or 5 years. And for me as an employee, it just didn't seem fair. And then growing up into management later at different companies as a manager, knowing that there were some rock stars on the team that, man, they were just completely underpaid and completely, I felt like the company was undervaluing them. So I'm like, look, this is a person who came in at a very cheap rate, but they are absolutely the biggest rock star on the team. We need to give them like a 25, a 40% bump in their pay. And management and HR was like, whoa, are you kidding me? No way, we can't do that. I'm like, look, that's just going to catch them up to where everybody else is. That's not like going way above and beyond the marketplace. It's just giving them fair. And they're like, you know what, we can do that, but it's going to take a few years. Let's give them like an 8%, and that will be 5% bigger than anybody else. So I absolutely agree with you. That regulated growth stuff, man, it's good, it's nice, but it's not great. It's not awesome. It's not fantastic. So
Yep.
yeah,
We're always in search of those rock stars, and you're completely right about that. A lot, just within my experience of having this company, it seems like you go after the high paid engineers, the ones that know the game and been there for a while, and you get minimal results or expectations out of that. And it seems like the young hungry rock star, he doesn't really know everything. He's come in, he's sacrificed, taking a big salary because he sees opportunity and growth with that current position. And those are the people who can take the ball and run. And it seems like you have to be very, in tune to what's going on in your environment, because you want to keep those A players, and you really want to weed out the ones that are going to be the B and C team, because, if you want to grow those rock stars and pay them what they need, you can't be carrying dead weight on the back end with people who are either getting the same pay or more, and not giving you that level of production.
So Joshua, in your field, in computer networking technology, network infrastructure engineering, like, how do you go about determining the rock stars? How do you sift through all of the dirt and all of the mud and all of the gems and say, you know what, this is a diamond, I have to have this person, versus these are all really good, awesome things, awesome people, but they're just not right for my business?
A lot of it's watching their habits. I mean, it's not so much that they know their job or know the technology, because anybody can be taught technology. Anybody can be taught, process and steps of how something should be troubleshot. I think that's been my big success, is I know how to break down troubleshooting to simplicity. So when you find somebody that can actually sit back, they know, they're confident in what they're doing. They go out on a limb, they take risk, but it's their habits that you watch. Do they effectively, manage their time? Are they always attentive to the customer? Because we're a service industry, so that's another big part of it. It's not so much knowing everything, because that could also get you in trouble on the back end. I've had guys who, they'll work the service desk and they'll take a call, and somebody with a small problem, to them, they're thinking, well, this is easy stuff, and it almost pushes off the client on the other end. When really what we're looking for is you don't know what's going on in that person's life, or what kind of fire they're under. So it's almost, are you there to help them with whatever problem they present you? And you within about, I'd say within a month to 3 months, you really can tell the individuals who are going to take that charge.
So one of the things that I am very big on is really engaging with the people around me. So when I started out as an engineer, at that time in my life, I was really, really struggling with social anxiety, and I had a lot of problems, just doing this, like having a conversation with somebody, especially somebody that I hadn't, worked with for a long time or been next to for a long, long time. And so I was very, very uncomfortable with talking to people. So putting me in that situation maybe 20 years ago and saying, hey, you're going to talk to this customer and you're going to troubleshoot their problem over the phone and help them, resolve and get to the next step. This probably is probably the worst thing ever, both for me and for the customer, because if it was an easy problem, I would blow it off and I say, oh, it's easy. You just click, you double click, you right click. Okay, you're done. Thanks. Bye. And then be like, wait, what? What happened? This kid just blew right over me. I have no idea what he's talking about. Or if it was a hard problem, I'd say, okay, just like send me your computer, box it up, send it to me, because it's too difficult. I don't want to spend like 20 minutes on the phone talking to you, because I just felt very, very uncomfortable with like trying to, just say, hey, man, I realize you're struggling. I realize it's a problem, but we're going to get through this together and tell me what you see and just all those kind of little steps. So what do you do in the situations where when you find an engineer that's struggling to communicate with people, whether it be customers on the phone or just other folks in the building, how do you coach them through that?
So, I mean, basically that's up to good management and leadership, and they go hand in hand with something like that, because a lot of people aren't comfortable with opening conversations. I being one of them. I'm just now getting into the realm of speaking on podcasts and being on the news every now and then, or doing some type of public or speaking engagement. So I understand that, but it's also having the people above you that can coach you, that can kind of push you over that level. And then it takes a lot of do you want, get out of your comfort zone? Because once you get out of your comfort zone, you start finding out more about yourself and what you're really capable of doing. And you'll be surprised. I mean, a lot of people are surprised how much, once they break out of that shell and the response they get from whoever's on the other end or the client base or whatever, because it kind of gives them a new drive, a new sense of confidence that, hey, at once I wouldn't do this, but now I'm doing it. What else can I take on? What's my next challenge? And you want to find the people that want to go after those challenges, not just kind of back down. But you do have to have a good back end, a good stable back end, and say, hey, what I try to tell all my people is you're there to help whoever's on the other line. You have the full backing of the company. You have all the resources at your fingertips. And when you don't know, you have a phone number to call, a friend to reach out to, or a person sitting next to you that will help you. So it's more of making sure that, the team's working together. People are taking each other's backs and helping out with one another.
Man, that's so awesome. I think, again, going back to some of those mistakes I've made earlier on in my career, I feel this pressure that I got to do it myself. Like, I got to figure it out. And if I don't know it, man, I got to research it. I got to trial and error. I got to spend lots of time like working on this, instead of just like literally turning to the person to my left and say, hey, Joshua, I've got this problem. I have no idea how to solve it. Have you ever seen it before? And you go, yeah, dude, that's easy. Like, we had that just yesterday. Here's the answer, right? And I think so many times, especially in the engineering worlds, both on the software development and the infrastructure side, people are super, super smart, but they're also super proud about wanting to figure it out. Like, we want to be problem solvers, and we don't necessarily want to be great communicators. So we want to have this puzzle and work through this puzzle. But on the other end, like, there's literally another human being going, gosh, when is Chad going to give me this answer? Like, I'm struggling. My business is not working. Like, my email's down. My servers are crashing. My work is non-functional, and I'm just trying to get things up and going. So if Chad can get me the answer in an hour after he solves it, or Joshua can get me the answer in 20 seconds when he can tell it to me, I want to go to Joshua.
Yep, and that is so common in our industry. I deal with that on a daily basis. Engineers are proud. They want to be the problem solvers, but it's also teaching them the balance of instead of trying to solve one problem, what if you could solve 10 problems in a day, and utilizing your team members, and then really you're absorbing information by osmosis. When you can have somebody help you resolve a problem that would take you 30 minutes in 5 minutes, I mean, one, you're learning how to resolve that problem. Two, you're more efficient, and that shows to upper management, and that puts you, in line to be able to make promotions. And the more you're able to solve problems, the faster the company grows. And that's a big deal, because that's the faster that you get raises, that's the more training you get. And so it's you've got to know when to say, hey, I've got to put up my pride. I can't get through this. I know the guy next to me could probably help me out and knock us out in 5 minutes. So that, it's taking that kind of action in saying, hey, all right, I've exhausted my efforts. I've spent too much time. Let's get this fixed and move on to the next issue. Well, we run into that every day in the engineering world.
Man, yeah, I feel you. And to be honest, to be fair, I have a lot of empathy for a lot of my old bosses over the course of my career, because now looking back, I see what a pain in the butt I was sometimes for trying to have this attitude, right? Of just, I have to solve it myself rather than just turn around and ask somebody about it. So Joshua, we've been talking a lot about how to find the right rock star, how to coach up the individual contributors on the team, and get the company, or get the individuals on the team to work more efficiently so that we can, increase the revenue of the company. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, I want to talk to you about those dollars and cents of how to make money in this company, especially in this industry where everything's changing on you all the time. You're constantly having to reinvest in new technology and new training, new trial and error. We'll talk about that in just a second, but first we'll take a quick break and thank our sponsors. This episode of Hello Tech Pros is sponsored by you, the audience. Instead of looking for new corporate sponsors, I've decided to adopt a pay-per-value model. What that means is you decide on how much I get paid. If you're just browsing and have yet to get value out of the show, don't feel obligated to pay a darn thing. However, if this podcast does its intended job of helping you build your career, build your products, or build your business, consider becoming a sponsor on Patreon. Pick the level of recurring donation that matches the level of value you get out of this show, or make a one-time sponsorship for that big aha moment that have helped turn things around for you. Become a sponsor today at patreon.com/hellotechpros, or visit hellotechpros.com/sponsor. Okay, we're back with Joshua Futrell. Joshua is the CEO and founder of COMHOME Technology Solutions. We've been talking to Joshua about, first of all, how do you find those rock star engineers who are going to be above and beyond the call of duty of just knowing the technical stuff, right? Knowing how to follow a process, or knowing the ins and outs of your networking gear, right? It's going to be those people that are really hungry and they're really looking for solutions. They're not afraid to ask other people about how they solved it and to solve the problems faster. They're going to manage their time effectively. They're going to be very attentive to the customer. And, just a lot of the communication problems that we see just throughout the engineering world, those rock stars, those A players are going to rise above and beyond that and make their environments a lot more efficient, which is going to help the company out tremendously. So Joshua, now that we've got our A-star team, our A-team working on all of these problems, let's get into, entrepreneurship in general, because we haven't really touched on that. What does entrepreneurship mean to you?
I would say it's the ability to take my own action and live and die by the sword. So, everybody has ideas, and everybody thinks of the next best thing, and it's actually taking that next step and running with it. Can I do this? Am I up to the challenge? Is it worth the risk? And it's one of those things every day. Yeah, I run a technology company, and most of our platforms are managed professional services, but it's the forward thinking of what else can we do with this? What other kind of business idea do I have, and maybe it can be tangible and turned into something, and watch that grow. So that's kind of what an entrepreneur means to me. Just somebody that's able to make these decisions and live and die by them.
Cool. So once you decide, I'm going to do this, I'm going to take a deep breath. I'm going to jump into the deep end and see if I can start swimming here. What's the first step that you need to do to ensure the success of your new company, right? So back in the day, it was like, okay, I got to go out and get some business cards. And that was like, that's the first thing that I got to do. But now from your perspective, like if a new entrepreneur, like one of your engineers that's maybe worked for you in the past is be like, you know what, Joshua, I want to go out on my own and I want to do this because I've seen what you did throughout your history and your career and you launching COMHOME Technology Solutions. I want to do that for myself. Like, what would you do to coach this individual?
My biggest thing is, have a plan. Like, what is your plan? To run a company, look at the aspects of what it takes to run a company, because I didn't have no idea when I jumped into it. And basically, it was just like you said, I need business cards, I need a logo, and where do I go find business? Mm-hmm. So where I've had a lot of success is definitely like within the networking groups and getting tied in with the Chamber of Commerce's. But looking back, if I would have had a more well-rounded, written down plan, attribute some goals to that, some very long-term goals with small goals getting you to that big goal. So it's easier to digest. But a plan, how am I going to take my product to market? How am I going to sell this? How am I going to be able to scale? Because eventually, when you start a company, if you don't have a lot of capital or you don't have a lot of people, it's just you, and you're working off your skills. Mm-hmm. But eventually, you outgrow that and you start bringing people in, and that's when a lot of the dynamics change, because you're having to start to delegate and give control away. But how do you maintain the quality of your product that you've built? And through that, I think it's proper planning. You lay out, your goals, your time management. That's crucial right there. So I think in the beginning, time management, you can live and die by that as well. Are the meetings or the events that you're attending, do those provide value to your company, or are you just kind of filling time? So I would say probably the biggest thing is definitely having a good plan or a blueprint around how you foresee your company growing within, 6 months, 1 year, and 5 years.
And so in this area in engineering, both on the software side and on the network engineering side, I've had a lot of people approach me with really struggling with the idea of, dude, I don't have a product. Well, I would say even especially on the network side, right? Because on the code side, we think of the product is I'm building an app, I'm building a website, I'm building software as a service. But on the engineering side, it's like I don't have a product to sell. I just do my job. Like customers come to me with a problem and I solve that problem. So how can you tell someone or what would be the process for someone to go by and say, you know what, here's all the work that I do and I'm going to package that up into a product? What does that look like?
And you're right with the networking world. Everybody thinks, you're just putting in equipment and turning it up and making it talk. But it is important to kind of build a product around it. What are you able to bring to the table that's different than what other companies are doing? And when you're able to identify that, then you build around that, and that kind of grows itself into your product. And I think there's a lot of IT companies out there now. There's been a big change where it's more of a service industry. So you almost have to have a product or something that kind of differentiates you from all the rest. And what I would tell, another engineer or an engineering company is, identify that, find out what you do best, find out what sets you apart, and, put those motions into action and create a product. Because it's a lot easier to brand a product than say, I put in routers and switches or infrastructure, or I do Wi-Fi. Mm-hmm. Well, what do you do with the Wi-Fi? What we're doing with Wi-Fi now, instead of saying I can sell you Wi-Fi, because you can go buy that, you can go Best Buy and buy Wi-Fi nowadays. Yep. But it's, what are you doing with your Wi-Fi? There's so many companies out there that are basically, just giving Wi-Fi complimentary. Just, come into our business, we'll give you Wi-Fi so you can do what you need to do. But now it's starting to target clients and businesses and say, everybody's got Wi-Fi, but what are you doing with your Wi-Fi? Are you grabbing analytics? Are you doing anything with the data? What are you doing when the guests log in? Are you capturing any kind of their data to do any kind of marketing efforts towards them? So it's developing products based off your talents and your skill level. Because nowadays in technology, everybody's building stuff. And it's just kind of almost like we're packaging together the next best thing, and it's all revolved around, in my opinion, analytics and big data.
Awesome. Great points there. It's not just about plugging together the same stuff that anybody can get anywhere. It's about really adding those unique selling propositions, those value-added efforts, right? Of I'm not just selling you Wi-Fi, I'm selling you a secure Wi-Fi platform that's got analytics and direct marketing all built in, right? That's going to make your Wi-Fi platform way more valuable than just if you went to Best Buy and got a $50 router and plugged it in.
Yep.
Absolutely, dude. That's awesome. So, Joshua, before we leave this conversation, can you share any parting words of wisdom for our audience about entrepreneurship, and then the best way that we can connect with you? Then we'll say goodbye.
Yeah, I'd say the biggest thing I've learned is take action. I've worked with so many people that they've had a great idea. We've started putting a plan together, but at the end of the day, take action. If there's an opportunity, take action on it. And you'll see more results than sitting back trying to come up with the perfect plan, rather than, hey, here's an opportunity. We've got a halfway good idea put together for this. Let's just go at it. Because at the end of the day, we're trying to grab more market share. We're trying to grab business. And if you're not selling or trying to become the best, do the next best thing, then you're just going to fall into the rat race of all the other companies are doing it the same way. So, try to be different. Try to go on the edge, because that's where success is found. And then basically to get a hold of me, our website is COMHOME, COMHOME technology.com. You can reach me at Futrell, JFUTRELL at COMHOMEtechnology.com. And our phone number is 214-709-6369.
Awesome, and we'll link all of those up in the show notes. Joshua, thank you so much for joining me on Hello Tech Pros today. I really value this conversation about the other side of technology, the other side of the teams that I've always worked on, because, again, we got a lot of software developers on the show, which is awesome. I love my development teams, but I love talking to network engineers, security engineers, over on the other side of the fence, of making everything that all the code that we write run, making it secure, but also just talking about like what makes a good engineer and how a good engineer can become a great engineer, because I think there's not enough people talking about that. So many times we just focus on the technology and not on, like you said, those little habits. Like, what are the habits that they're doing that are going to turn them into that great engineer? So thank you so much for joining me today.
Well, thank you for having me, Chad.
You bet. Tech Pros, if you are an engineer and you want to start your own business, listen, the first thing you got to do is just go back and listen to what Joshua was saying here about the rockstar engineers. First, become that, right? Become the person who just is absolutely dominating in the field that you're working in. Learn from all the people around you, and not just the technology, not just the process, but look at the habits of the other A players on your team. Like, look at the habits of your boss, if your boss is like Joshua and has done his own thing, right? Look at what people are doing, what their communication skills are. How are they interacting with a customer? How are they talking to other people? How are they communicating? It's not just about the technology. It's how we relate to other human beings. That's what's going to help you build your business. Not just the technology, but the actual relating to other human beings. You've been listening to Joshua Futrell, and I'm Chad Bostic. And until next time, take care. The show notes page for this episode can be found at hellotechpros.com/240. Do you use Slack for team communication? Join the Hello Tech Pros Slack channel at hellotechpros.com/Slack. If this episode helped you out in any way, please leave a review on iTunes and let me know what you thought. iTunes reviews helps our rankings, which helps us grow the Hello Tech Pros podcast to a broader audience, which helps more technical professionals and techpreneurs build their career, build their products, and build their businesses. If you are a subscriber and get repeat value out of this show, consider becoming a sponsor on Patreon. The information on this podcast is free to everyone, but I'm giving you the opportunity to pay for the value you get out of it, starting as little as $1 a month. Pledge your support today at patreon.com/hellotechpros or visit hellotechpros.com/sponsor.